When I'm finding clips for all my videos, mostly of races from the late 2000s to current day, I'm often shocked by how many drivers in those races have since retired. As a kid getting into the sport around the year 2010, the Cup Series roster was pretty stable. Retirements have typically come in waves throughout the sport's history, and in the early 2000s, there was a big wave which made room for multiple high-achieving rookies to come flooding in, almost continuously for close to a decade. But by the year 2010, and maybe a bit before then, all those drivers who were thought of as replacement drivers not too long before had established themselves as the new faces of the sport. Almost every big team was filled up by drivers in the primes of their careers, and as evidenced by some pretty obscure Rookie of the Year winners from around that time, there wasn't much movement in or out of the Premier Series. That's when I got into the sport, so it was a pretty large and unwelcome change for me when the drivers I took for granted to always be racing on Sundays slowly started bowing out in the late 2010s and early 2020s. But there are of course plenty of exceptions. There are still many drivers who have survived past the most recent round of retirements, and some arguably past the one before that. The longevity of these drivers' careers comes down to any of multiple factors, including talent, money, determination, their age when they began competing, and their overall love for racing regardless of results. Of the longest active drivers today, there aren't too many at similar points in their careers. Some are still in peak winning form, others are past their prime, while others have never had much success on paper at all. For the rest of this video, I'll be talking a bit about each of the 13 longest active drivers, all of whom made their NASCAR debuts prior to 2005, and 3 of whom even before the year 2000. I included the top 13 as opposed to the standard top 10 because at least a handful of them are no longer competing on a consistent basis whatsoever, and have only made 1 or 2 starts yet this season. Going in order from shortest to longest career, measured only by the year of their NASCAR debut, I will be talking a bit about each driver's first season and where they stand today, beginning with Denny Hamlin. After racking up 25 asphalt late model wins in 2003 and earning himself a spot in the Joe Gibbs Racing development pipeline, Hamlin made his debut in the Truck Series and drove to an impressive 10th place finish at IRP. In all 5 of his truck starts towards the end of that season, Hamlin drove the number 03 in collaboration between Team EJP Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing. While he finished every race under power, he failed to improve his finish from his first race. However, in his first and only then Busch Series start that year, Hamlin piloted the full-fledged Joe Gibbs Racing number 18 car to an 8th place finish. Having done pretty well in his first few NASCAR starts and continuing to win on the late model side, Hamlin signed to run full-time with Gibbs in the Busch Series for 2004, and he never looked back. This season, his 20th full-time in the Cup Series with JGR, Hamlin has already won 3 races as he has nearly averaged each season since his record-crushing rookie year of 2006. But despite having 57 Cup wins, it is well known that he is yet to win a championship. Time is running out for the now 44-year-old Hamlin to get it done, but with career-long consistency that rivals the all-time greats, it's just as likely as ever that he wins it all this year. Hamlin's teammate in the lower series and his early Cup days, J.J. Yeley, also began his NASCAR career in 2004. While Hamlin stood out in the late model scene, Yeley stood out in USAC when in 2003 he broke the single-season wins record with 24 and became only the second driver to win the Triple Crown, with championships in all 3 of the National Sprint, Silver Crown, and National Midget divisions. The only other driver to win all 3 in the same year was Tony Stewart back in 1995, who of course went on to have immediate success with Joe Gibbs Racing in the Cup Series. In 2004, Yeley got put on the same fast track to Cup as Stewart was a few years before, and in his first year he ran 17 Busch races as well as 4 Cup races. That was the plan at least, but Yeley failed to qualify for the Busch race at Charlotte, which led to a buyout of the Rick Ware Racing entry, and he also failed to qualify for both Michigan and Homestead and Cup. He scored 4 top 10s in the Busch Series with a best of 6th at Kansas, and the better of his 2 Cup starts with a 27th at Atlanta. Nevertheless, thanks to his outstanding record on dirt, Yeley was signed back for the full Busch Series season in 2005. But to say the least, he paled in comparison to Hamlin, especially after they both moved to Cup. Since the 2007 season, his second and final Cup season with JGR, he has remarkably continued to compete in NASCAR each year, but almost entirely for backmarker teams and middle-of-the-pack teams at best. Having become the go-to guy for last-minute deals with underfunded teams, so far this season, Yeley's been the primary driver for the NY Racing Team in Cup, and an occasional driver for Joey Gay's Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. Although his results have been less than desirable this year, Yaley is a testimony to how far grit, determination, and clean driving can get you in NASCAR, as he has now run at least part-time for 22 seasons. Brad Keselowski was another driver who got started in NASCAR back in 2004. That year, he ran 8 Truck Series races for his family team, K Automotive Motorsports, and only finished a best of 16th place at Mansfield. He also attempted the season finale at Homestead with MB Motorsports but failed to qualify. Brad came back to run the full season with his family team in 2005, but as they had been struggling for sponsorship and in a significant decline for the past few years at that point, his results didn't get much better. Keselowski was virtually unknown in NASCAR up until late 2007 when he got his big break with Junior Motorsports in the Nationwide Series. Going full-time with them in 2008, from then until his final Cup season with Penske in 2021, Keselowski won at least 1 race per season, and additionally went down in history as the 2010 Nationwide Series champion and 2012 Cup Series champion. Since beginning his owner-driver role at RFK Racing in 2022, times have been a bit tougher for him, especially this current season, which is on track to be the worst of his Cup career. This year has been a big step back for Keselowski, who even last year won his first race with RFK and made the playoffs, leading many to wonder if he has finally passed his prime. Regardless, as a champion with 36 Cup Series wins to date, Keselowski is only continuing to build on to a first-ballot Hall of Fame legacy. A year before Keselowski made his first start, Jeremy Clements ran his first of now more than 500 races in the then Busch Series. At Pikes Peak, Clements made his series debut into Kenneth Appling Racing's 71 car, but it was cut short after he spun himself around early on and backed hard into the outside wall. Larry Gunzelman spun on the apron trying to avoid him and made the incident quite memorable by also collecting that year's eventual champion Brian Vickers. As he missed the show a few months later at Atlanta, his unfortunate debut remained his only start in the top 3 series of NASCAR until 2007 when he ran the final 5 races for McGill Motorsports. Between his first race and second, Clements overcame a major hand injury sustained in a dirt late model crash that sidelined him for nearly a year, and he won his first ARCA race at Nashville with the underfunded Appling team. His upset win and solid consistency in ARCA led him back to the then Nationwide Series to race for smaller teams, and after a partial season with JD Motorsports in 2010, he began fielding his own cars full-time in 2011 and has continued to ever since. So far, Clements has won 2 Xfinity Series races at Road America in 2017 and Daytona in 2022, both of which were massive upsets. He and his father Tony Clements are known for building their own engines and have been by far the most successful independent engine builders in the years they've been competing. While they began leasing engines from Hendrick for the majority of their races in 2024, the team has remained almost entirely independent in all other aspects, and with 3 top 10 finishes so far this season, Jeremy surpassed 500 starts at COTA and is on track to break Kennedy Wallace's Xfinity Series record of 547. And one of the least expected returns of this season, Casey Kane made it to this list thanks to his one-off Xfinity Series race at Rockingham. In his first NASCAR start since health problems sidelined him late in the 2018 season, Kane qualified in an impressive 4th place, but his chances were spoiled in Stage 1 when he was caught up in an incident right in front of him. Still, he and his Richard Childress Racing team fought hard to get what they could out of the day, and after a long caution-filled final stage and an overtime restart, Kane wound up with a very solid 14th place finish, all things considered. It was also much better than his average finish of 22.9 in his first Busch Series season. Thanks to his strong accolades in midget racing, including the year 2000 USAC Championship, Kane ran his first 20 Busch Series starts with Robert Yates Racing in 2002, and only scored a single top 10. He improved significantly the next year with Atkins Motorsports, earning his first win in the final race at Homestead, and he adapted immediately to the Cup Series, which he was rushed up to full-time with Evernham Motorsports in 2004. Considering his initial success, some would say he never lived up to the hype, but with 18 Cup Series wins between Evernham, Richard Petty Motorsports, Red Bull, and Hendrick, he only falls short of 50 or so drivers in the sport's history. Kane, who's competed full-time in sprint cars for the past few years and has won multiple championships as a team owner, doesn't have any additional NASCAR plans that we know of, but after showing top 5 speed at Rockingham, I'd be surprised if he never comes back. Another Casey also made a return to NASCAR this season after an even longer absence from full-time competition. Casey Mears was released from Germain Racing following the 2016 season, and after running a partial Xfinity Series schedule the next year, his most recent start prior to this year was the 2019 Daytona 500. But having stepped away from the sport with 489 Cup Series starts, Mears made it a goal to come back and make it an even 500. In the current Cup Series climate, with all 36 charter teams having full-time drivers, there are only a few underfunded and part-time open teams willing or able to have Mears drive for them. It'll be quite the challenge for him to get the 10 additional starts he wants, as currently he's only chalked off one back at Martinsville this spring, where he finished in 35th place with the Garage 66 team. But to earn him a spot in this video, it was over 23 years ago when Mears made his Busch Series debut at Homestead Miami Speedway. In the year 2000, he won his first Indy Lights race and had a head-turning 4th place run in his kart debut. But unable to land a stable ride in open wheel racing, Mears turned to stock cars, where he signed with Team Jessel in the NASCAR Busch Series to run the final race in 2001 and full-time in 2002. His results were rather unremarkable with them, but about par for the course for the team's expectations. And like many others at the time, he was rushed up to the Cup Series in 2003. Although he came close to winning a few more races, Mears will ultimately go down as a one-hit wonder in Cup for his triumph in the 2007 Coca-Cola 600. Regardless, Mears is another testimony to how far clean and consistent driving can get you in NASCAR, despite not having much success on paper. Also debuting in 2001 was Martin Truex Jr. A regular of the Busch North Series, Truex made his first National Busch Series start at Dover that year, but it all went up in smoke early on when he got blinded by a wreck ahead of him. His family-owned 56 car went behind the wall and finished in 38th, and it didn't go much better in his only other attempt at Homestead as he failed to qualify there. Continuing to compete in the North Series and select Busch Series races over the next couple of years, it wasn't until 2004 when he earned his first full-time ride with Chance 2 Motorsports, and by then he was ready to make it count as he won back-to-back championships right off the rip. His Cup career took quite a bit longer to come into bloom, as after winning his first race with DEI in 2007, it wasn't until 2013 with Michael Waltrip Racing that he'd win again, and not until 2016 with Furniture Row Racing that he'd win multiple times in a single season. Nevertheless, Truex stands today as a Cup champion with 34 wins in the Premier Series. This season was supposed to be the first of his retirement, but thanks to his Daytona 500 effort with Tricon Garage, he made the cut for this video. A 38th place finish there after an early crash would see him go out in the exact same way he came into NASCAR, but chances are Truex will be back for another start or two at some point. The 4th consecutive yet final driver to squeeze into this video with but a single start thus far in 2025 is Johnny Sauter. His NASCAR career was kick-started by his 2001 ASA Late Model Championship, which caught the attention of Richard Childress Racing and led to him making his first 5 Busch Series starts with them at the end of that year. He impressed in his debut with a 5th place finish, but his results went downhill from there. Running the full schedule with them the next year, he was able to pick up the win at Chicagoland, but his overall results weren't all that promising even for a rookie. While Sauter never had much success in Cup and only won 3 Xfinity Series races, he found his niche in trucks, where racing full-time from 2009 to 2021, he won 24 races and the 2016 championship. For the past few seasons, he's continued to run select races in the Truck Series, most recently in this season's opener at Daytona, where he finished in 17th place in a reunion with his longtime team ThorSport Racing. At 47 years old, there's a chance Sauter could return to help out some small teams here and there, but with how many of them have been priced out recently, there's also a good chance that Daytona will go down as his final race. Breaking the streak of barely active drivers is one still racing every Sunday, Kyle Busch. Rowdy's introduction to the national level of NASCAR racing came at the end of the 2001 season in a much-forgotten Truck Series stint with Roush Racing. Busch scored 2 top 10s in his 6 races with them and even led 17 laps at the shortly lived Chicago Motor Speedway before fuel problems took him out of contention late in the going. He would have had another good shot at becoming NASCAR's youngest winner in Fontana, but after winning the first practice, he was forced to drop out of the race. Then 16 years old, it wasn't because the track was too big, but because of an interpretation of a law which prevented minors from competing in events sponsored by tobacco companies. Soon thereafter, NASCAR mandated that drivers in the top 30 series must be at least 18 years old, which forced Busch to drop back to the late model ranks until the 2003 season. But despite his initial ineligibility and many other setbacks in the following years, Kyle Busch has become one of the sport's all-time greats, sitting now as a 2-time Cup champion and 63-time winner, and he holds all but unbeatable win records in both the Xfinity Series and Truck Series. However, last year and so far this current year, Busch has struggled the most in Cup since his rookie days, having last won over 2 years ago. Now in his third season with Richard Childress Racing, Busch remains in fringe playoff contention and is in conversation to win a race every now and then, but with the Gen 7 car not suiting him well, chances are slim that he'll ever return to championship form. But not even Busch, who got started in trucks at 16 and is still full-time at 40, is the longest active full-time driver. That title as of now belongs to Matt Crafton. After winning the year 2000 Featherlight Southwest Series Championship, his first start came in the final race of the 2000 truck season at Auto Club, where he drove the same ThorSport Racing 88 truck as he does today. Crafton finished an impressive 9th place for the team, then known as Sealmaster Racing, and went on to run the full schedule for them in 2001. While he wasn't much of a contender in his first few seasons, his results were about par for the course for his team, who at that point had a single win with Terry Cook back in 1998. It wasn't until 2008 at Charlotte when Crafton scored his first win and ThorSport's second, and it wasn't until his second championship-winning season in 2014 when he first won multiple races in a single season. Standing today as a 3-time Truck Series champion with 15 total race wins, Crafton's established himself as one of the series' all-time greats, but at 49 years old, he's been long past his prime and is now over 5 years removed from his most recent win. He missed the playoffs for the first time last season and is on the path of missing them again this season unless he can get back to victory lane. Still, with how much has changed in NASCAR since he started, it's pretty cool to see Crafton in the Menards-sponsored 88 truck on the track each race. Apart from a move to Kevin Harvick Incorporated in 2004, a few Xfinity starts with Richard Childress Racing, and a few fill-in roles in the Cup Series, Crafton has raced with the same team in the same series his entire career. Yet 3 drivers have been around longer than Crafton, including the 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson. Already a 6-time champion between multiple off-road racing leagues, Johnson made the switch to stock car racing in 1997, and just the next year was already making his NASCAR debut. Running 2 races for ST Motorsports and 1 for the Curb Agajanian Performance Group, Johnson notched a best finish of 15th at Gateway, which he would improve to a 7th place in Milwaukee in 1999, his first of 5 races for his off-road team Herzog Motorsports. Running full-time with them the next 2 years, Johnson's performance was pretty good, especially considering his team was brand new to NASCAR, but at the same time, he didn't light the world on fire. But late in the 2001 season, following his first Busch win at Chicagoland, he was contacted by Hendrick Motorsports to run 3 races, and the rest is history. Despite getting rushed up way too early to Cup by today's standards, Johnson found immediate success in Cup, just like Denny Hamlin and many other rookies around that time. 7 championships later, Johnson still races on occasion for the team which he co-owns, Legacy Motor Club, but after moving to IndyCar for 2 years following his original retirement at the end of the 2020 season, it's been a very rough go for him in NASCAR. Having made 14 starts with Legacy thus far since his return in 2023, Johnson's lone top 25 finish came in this year's Daytona 500, where he avoided the late race chaos to clinch a much-needed third-place finish. It's up in the air whether Johnson will return for more races next year, but no matter what happens, with a record-tying number of championships and 83 race wins, he's already cemented himself as one of the top few drivers in NASCAR history, if not the number 1. But Johnson is not the longest active driver in the sport to make a Cup start this season, as thanks to his Truck Series debut much earlier in the 1998 season, David Starr has that honor. Attempting 8 races for Raher Morrison Racing that year, Starr, an accomplished late model racer from Texas, finished a best of 18th at his home track. He continued to race for small teams for the next few years, but eventually earned a seat at Spears Motorsports, who he won 3 races with between 2002 and 2005. Starr won his 4th and final race at Red Horse Racing in 2006, and while he continued to be a consistent top 10 driver for the next several years, as of this past decade, he's extended his NASCAR career as a journeyman driver like J.J. Yaley, competing for middle-of-the-pack and backmarker teams. So far in 2025, Starr's only made 2 starts, first in the Xfinity Series at Darlington, where he finished 26th with Joey Gaza Motorsports, and then quite recently in the Cup Series at Atlanta, where he was well over a second off the pace and wrecked by himself in the Garage 66 tank. At age 57, Starr can still be somewhat competitive in the lower series, as he proved with an 8th place finish at Talladega last fall, so it's likely he'll be back for more races over there and potentially a few more Cup starts before he calls it quits. But making his debut over 8 years before Starr and still racing part-time in the Truck Series at age 73 is the longest active NASCAR driver as of this recording, Norm Benning. Back before the Truck Series was founded and when the Busch Series primarily raced at short tracks in the Southeast, Benning went right to the big leagues to make his first start and finished in 30th place at Dover. His O'Neill Racing Chevy went behind the wall with steering issues a little short of halfway in the race, and his fate wasn't much better the rest of the season, as he either failed to finish or failed to qualify in each of his other 5 attempts. Benning only ran one other Cup race in 1993 when driving for O'Neill Racing again. He parked it after a single lap with supposed handling problems. But Benning certainly tried to race more often, as overshadowing his 4 starts were 26 DNQs, most recently with a failed Daytona 500 attempt in 2010. Running full-time in ARCA with his own team from 1997 to 2008, Benning never got to victory lane, but he finished as high as 5th in points in 2001. He then shifted his focus to the NASCAR Truck Series at the end of the 2008 season and continued to race almost exclusively in his own equipment and on his own small budget, attempting most of the races there each year from 2009 to 2021. For the past few years, Benning has attempted fewer races but has focused heavily on the super speedways and shown some pretty good speed there, relatively speaking. This year, he recorded a solid 16th place finish at Daytona, and while he's fallen out early with mechanical problems in all of his other races thus far, he still stands a good chance of picking up his long-awaited first top 10 finish if he can bring another good motor to Talladega this fall and he can stay out of trouble. It's anyone's guess how long Benning will continue to race in the Truck Series, but I'd hazard to guess he'll be back next year. Also, to put things into perspective, Benning is the only driver left in NASCAR to have raced in the Cup Series alongside Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and many other legends of the sport. For those wondering, if Dale Jr. ends up running a race this year or in the future, he would end up second to Norm Benning as he made his first Busch Series start in 1996. But as of now, that's where the list stands with the 13 longest active NASCAR drivers by year of debut. For those watching this that have watched NASCAR as long as I have and longer, this video probably felt like a bucket of cold water, especially with the dwindling number of drivers who raced prior to the year 2000. Or maybe if you're newer to the sport, you're surprised there's anyone left from those years. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like these. And until next time, peace out.